Although there were a number of variations of lightsabers outside of the standard model, such as the double-bladed lightsaber, crossguard lightsaber, and lightsaber pike, the consistent feature that all of these lightsabers shared was that they all contained a straight plasma blade that was emitted from the weapon's hilt. However, although the vast majority of lightsabers contained a straight blade, a lightsaber variation existed that had a long, flexible blade called the Lightwhip, making it one of the most rare and exotic lightsaber variations within the Star Wars universe. But why would a Force-sensitive individual prefer to use the highly rare Lightwhip over the more traditional straight-bladed lightsabers? And who did choose to wield the Lightwhip in combat? In this video expose, I will describe the advantages and disadvantages that the Lightwhip provided in combat and explain who wielded this unique weapon. The Lightwhip, also referred to as the Laser Whip or Energy Whip, was a rare variant of the lightsaber. Due to it being a variation, the Lightwhip operated similarly to that of a lightsaber in regards to its mechanics. Lightwhips, like a traditional lightsaber, emitted a beam of energy that was capable of making it a functional weapon. However, rather than a straight blade, Lightwhips had flexible blades that extended to be several meters in length. They were able to have flexibility due to the fact that unlike a standard lightsaber, there were no cell barriers in the blade to ensure that the plasma within it stayed straight. Lightwhips differed from standard lightsabers, not just in the fact that they consisted of a flexible and much longer blade, but also in the requirements of the crystals that powered the weapon. Whereas a lightsaber required a single kyber crystal to power it, a Lightwhip contained multiple crystals that were much smaller in size when compared to the traditional lightsaber. However, just as lightsabers came in a number of different colors, Lightwhips shared this feature, wherein they could be found in red, orange, and yellow to name a few. It's important to distinguish the Lightwhip from the Shockwhip, as these weapons, although they look very similar, have crucial differences between them. Different from a Lightwhip, a Shockwhip consisted of a thick set of metallic wires woven together to create a single strand that extended roughly 4 meters in length. The metal hand grip of the Shockwhip contained a control mechanism that, when triggered, prompted the power cell inside the hand grip to produce an electrical charge that would be distributed throughout the whip. The Shockwhip was a weapon favored by the Zygerian slavers, who were able to utilize the weapon to neutralize Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it is important to remember, Shockwhips are not Lightwhips. But why would someone prefer to wield a Lightwhip rather than a standard lightsaber in combat? The primary advantage presented by the Lightwhip was that due to its rareness and disuse amongst other Force users, wielders of the Lightwhip could exploit their opponents' inexperience with the weapon and utilize this significant advantage over them in combat. The range that the Lightwhip provided also created an advantage for the user, as it could attack from a distance greater than that of a standard lightsaber, and due to its flexibility, the Lightwhip could be used to attack from different angles. The Lightwhip also caused problems for the user of a standard lightsaber when it came to their ability to parry a strike from the Lightwhip, as its flexibility could result in it wrapping around their own lightsaber. However, the Lightwhip also had its disadvantages in combat that would cause an individual to give serious consideration for its use. In comparison to a standard lightsaber, the blade of the Lightwhip was considerably weaker, making it less likely to score a penetrating blow against protected targets, such as Durasteel armor. The nature of the Lightwhip's blade also made it much more difficult to control, and therefore, one had to be a master with it in order to ensure that the user did not injure or mangle themselves during combat. Further, an individual wielding a Lightwhip conceded defensive abilities, and left themselves susceptible to being overcome by an opponent who utilized speed or overpowering brute force. This was due to the fact that the Lightwhip required that it build momentum by initially being swung out wide, and because the flexible blade made deflecting lightsaber strikes particularly difficult. The Dark Lady of the Sith, Lumaya, who while probably being one of the most well-known wielders of the Lightwhip, also created a number of variations in order to improve the weapon's advantages and eliminate some of its weaknesses. Lumaya ingeniously fashioned her Lightwhip to include not only a strand that consisted of plasma, like all Lightwhips contained, but she also added multiple extensions that consisted of solid matter, such as Mandalorian iron and other types of flexible metals. These variations added by Lumaya ensured that the differing plasma and solid strands of her Lightwhip behaved differently and acted much more unpredictably against her opponents. Further, because she knew that the Jedi trained to duel against a weapon that was comprised of either lightsaber energy or solid matter, and never both at the same time, she knew that her opponents would be unprepared to duel against her Lightwhip variant. One of the first known users of the Lightwhip was Githany, a member of the Sith who lived roughly 1,000 years before the events of A New Hope. Githany utilized the weapon for its primary advantage. That is, her use of the Lightwhip was not motivated by the fact that she thought that it was a better overall weapon than a standard lightsaber. Rather, she wanted to utilize the rare nature of the Lightwhip to exploit her opponent's ignorance of the weapon. But the Lightwhip was not solely wielded by Sith, like Lumaya and Githany. Other users of the Lightwhip included the powerful Night Sister Silri, who confidently chose the Lightwhip as her weapon of choice to bring into combat. In fact, even Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi wielded a Lightwhip during the time of the Clone Wars. During his mission to Ord Cestus, Obi-Wan fashioned a Lightwhip of his own, and utilized it during battle as his secondary weapon alongside his lightsaber. So there we have it. Why the Lightwhip, an extremely rare variant of the lightsaber, was wielded by both Jedi and Sith practitioners. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for up and away.